Hello, I'm Emma B. Perez, life design and career coach for teens and young adults. This Empower Your Teen YouTube channel is all about supporting parents. To learn how your high school or college age child can go from undecided to excited, click the link in the description box. To get even more support as a parent, just stick around by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. Okay, let's get to today's topic. Welcome back to Empower Your Teen. I'm Emma B. Perez. Now today we are speaking with Jackie Broussard. She designs and facilitates experiential education professional development for teachers. Since her first experience studying abroad in college, Jackie has felt most at home while traveling. She has worked and lived in Mexico, Panama, the Dominican Republic, Spain, and Germany. Jackie is fueled by the challenge of inspiring people to transform their lives. She believes that the most profound challenges of our times can be overcome by building intercultural bridges. Amen to that one, Jackie. I love that. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure, happy to be here.
So would you mind just letting us all know your story, how you came to do what you do?
Sure. So, I first studied abroad my junior year in college. I went to Madrid, Spain, and it was, just like, people always say about study abroad. It was a life-changing experience, really transformed the way that I view the world, and opened up the world to me. And so, ended up informing, what I decided to do as a career initially, because I ended up getting an international MBA and living and working outside of the US for a time. And then, took some other, twists and turns in my career, and then ended up where I am here, which is working in international education. So
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that story. It's amazing how much I hear it all the time from people who travel, what an impact that experience has on them. And that's why I'm so glad that you're here, because some young people, when they take a gap year, they want to spend that time traveling. So can you tell us some of the benefits, some of the lessons that you learned from traveling that might be true for other young people?
Sure. Well, I mean, I've learned so many lessons from travel. It's kind of hard to, call them all down, but I would say essentially one of the first things that travel taught me was just confidence and resilience. And that's because, it was my first time leaving the country, and, going somewhere all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, far, far away from my family, my friends, everybody that I knew really, and going to a place where they spoke a different language, which I thought I was fluent in until I got there and realized that I had a lot of work to do to kind of get to the level of where I felt comfortable in the language. And so there were many, many ups and downs during that year. And at the end of it all, I was able to say, like, I survived that. And not only that, but I'm much more confident and resilient as a result. I would say also, one of the things that travel ended up doing is helping me to recognize that freedom and flexibility were essential values for me. And that ended up basically making me an entrepreneur, because, those were things that I really appreciated about travel, and that I wanted to then, replicate in my day-to-day life. And I was able to do that by starting my own business. So, and I would say lastly, me learning that I need very little to be happy. I mean, just of like material, physical, items. So, I mean, that's also another tip for travel, is to pack light, because you will end up, you're thanking yourself for it, because I had many opportunities to learn that lesson. And I just realized that, you know, in the end, like getting, you know, having, you know, I had an experience in Guatemala where I was staying in a place with bed bugs, and ended up having to get rid of a whole bunch of my stuff. And in the end, I just like ended up with this backpack, you know, full of like a few clothing items, et cetera, and then traveling around the country with that. And so I just realized, like, you know, you don't have all that other stuff, and yet you're still like having a great time and meeting people. And so, yeah, I learned that about myself as well.
I'm hearing confidence, resiliency, and these are things that you don't really learn in school, right?
Right.
That's
Exactly.
that's kind of what's amazing about experiential learning.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, those were lessons I never would have really been able to learn, just kind of if I had stayed on my main trajectory at school.
Mhm, mhm. Now, I understand that some of your work also includes increasing access to study abroad opportunities.
Yeah, that's right. So that came about because when, you know, I talked about my first year traveling, and my experience was definitely unique among my cohort because I was the only person of color in our group of 20 students who went to Madrid that year. And it hadn't occurred to me that my experience would be unique until I actually got abroad and realized that there were certain things that my peers weren't experiencing that I was. And so, and it was everything from just kind of like, you know, how people in other countries perceive people of color or Black people when they travel. You know, there's the fact that like there was nobody who could do my hair, you know, who knew how to, you know, do my kind of hair or anything like that. And so it was just all these things, and I didn't have really anybody with me who could, you know, say, oh yeah, you know, like I know what you're talking about type of a thing. And so, and one of the things that I realized later was missing is that like there wasn't any effort made to kind of prepare me for how my study abroad experience would be different. And so that's kind of why now, not only am I is one of my main goals to help increase access to, you know, students who don't traditionally study abroad, people of color, first generation college students, et cetera, and increasing access to this as a place for them and for us, but also helping staff and professors and instructors who are going to be working with those students
Mm.
to make that experience better for them.
That's amazing. It definitely ties right in. I love your bio, the last line of your bio that said, the most profound challenges of our times can be overcome by building intercultural bridges. So, I mean, that had to be inspired by your personal experience, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
And just, you know, the fact that, you know, I feel like you learn so much, not only cross-culturally, between your culture and another culture, another country's culture when you travel, but also you learn within your own cohort. You know, if you are going, or if you're traveling with a program of Americans, for example, you're also learning from each other. And so that's where that came from.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many intercultural bridges that we could build within our own country, right?
Right, definitely.
Yeah, I love that. I love that work. Thank you for that. Now, you said your first travel experience was when you were a junior in college. Is that right?
Yes.
So, was there a change in the kind of student that you were in college after you traveled?
Um, that's an interesting question. I think I was always a pretty driven student, and I would say maybe you know, I continue to be. I don't think that changed at all, but I think that just kind of like what was important to me maybe changed. And so I continue to be a good student like after that year abroad, but I also kind of was able to focus more on, okay, like what's the next step for me, you know, in my study career as well as in my professional career. And so it helped me to get more focused on those things coming up in the future for me.
So, what are some of the benefits that a young person can gain from having experiences with other cultures?
Well, I mean, I think travel teaches you so much about yourself, and you learn about yourself through others in a way that you couldn't, you know, in your day-to-day life at home. And so it's, you know, one of the things that became obvious to me when I went abroad is that people saw me um, based on, you know, my various identities, which I hadn't really thought much about. One of them being an American. People were like, "Oh, she's American," and that kind of suddenly made people think certain things about me, you know, and so um, that in turn just kind of made me think about like how do I view other people in other cultures based on what could be, you know, images on TV or stereotypes or whatever. And so just being able to interact with real people from other places expands you so much in that you are able to find connections with folks you never thought you could.
Amazing. Does a person need to already speak another language to be able to study or travel abroad?
No, certainly not. And I think, you know, that's kind of what drove my initial interest in study abroad was getting really, really good and fluent in another language. But it doesn't have to be other people's motivation for travel, and it's not necessary. And it also depends on where you go, of course. You know, English-speaking countries are all over, but also many, and it's becoming more so even than when I initially studied abroad. English is becoming such um, a popularly spoken language throughout the world. And so I think depending on what town you end up in whatever country you choose, it could not be an issue.
All right, good. That'll open the door up to more people, I think.
Yeah.
So, who would you say would be a really great candidate for doing some traveling during a gap year?
Well, I think people who are interested in doing something a little bit off the beaten path, somebody who may not necessarily be sure of what they want to do next, you know, after high school. I know very few students at, you know, at that age who just know exactly what they want to do and what they want to be and what their career choices or even their college major, you know, by that time. And it makes sense because we just haven't experienced enough to help us say like, oh, I like this, but I don't like that. And so I think these are the kind of you know, gap years kind of experience that helps you to get exposure to those things, so you can decide like, oh, you know, I really loved, you know, this aspect of my gap year, and because of this I want to become an environmental scientist, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. You know, most of the families I talk to that are considering a gap year for their child, it's because that child doesn't know. Like you said, they still aren't quite sure what they want to do. So, you know, going straight away to college for them is kind of jumping into the deep end when they don't know yet. And so, what a great opportunity to get to experience. I mean, the gap year is all about experiencing new things that you haven't experienced and building new skill sets, right? And
Right.
travel just has a unique way of doing that and opening your eyes and your perceptions to things that you maybe have never considered before.
Exactly, and that makes your if you decide to go to college, your college career that much richer and more meaningful.
Yeah, yeah. What are the different types of travel opportunities that are out there for gap years?
Well, one example is an organization that I do work with, which is Verdo Education. And Verdo is it's kind of, it's a really interesting option for students who may not be sure of what the next move is for them. I think because it kind of is the best of both worlds. Because on the one hand, you have this need to kind of discover yourself and to grow and to travel and have all these experiences. Um, and on the other hand, there's your parents' need a lot of times, and also your need to kind of make sure that you're like going forward in a path and getting college credits and that kind of thing. So Verdo offers both. So this is for first year college students to, from the very first college experience, they're actually going abroad before they set foot on a college campus in the US. And so during whether you choose a semester or an entire year, which both options are available, during that time, you're actually, you know, having all these great transformational experiences abroad, but you're also getting a full semester or year's worth of college credits that will then in turn transfer directly to one of the consortium schools that Verdo partners with.
That's amazing. I mean, that's killing two birds with one stone, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting option. Like I said, I think it kind of marries kind of the best of both options.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, because I do talk to some people that are worried about taking the year because they think of it as maybe off track or something like that, even though they understand the benefits of the year, and just puts them like a little bit of a year later, which in my mind, I'm like, no, it's a bonus year, you know?
Mhm.
But Verdo is offering you college credit as well that transfers, and you know it's going to transfer
Right.
to their partner school, right?
Right, exactly. And so in that way, you get to kind of have that experience, but also finish college in 4 years if that's what you choose to do.
That's so cool. That is so cool. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today, telling us about your personal experience with traveling and how it can benefit young people as well. We really appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you very much, Emma.
All right, let's stay in touch.
Okay.